Commercial GCs, this is how to track all of your submittals for all of your projects in one place and see the status of those submittals and the subcontractor associated with the submittals for all of your different projects. By the way, if you're a commercial GC doing between $10 to $50 million a year in revenue and you would like systems to improve the profitability or cash flow of your projects, check out the link in the description below, book a call with me and we can have a chat. Anyway, as you can see here, I'm inside of a system. Now, this system is called Monday.com, but it has been built exclusively for commercial GCs. So you can see on the left-hand side, we've got RFIs, change orders, bidding process, milestones, project management area, and daily logs as well. And in this video, like I mentioned, we're going to be going over submittals. So data that is submitted by a subcontractor regarding a project for the internal team to review, make sure that they're happy with the documentation that's been provided. If there are issues, they can then escalate it to the architects or engineers. And then if they want to reject it, they can do. And then also just being able to track that information in association with the projects themselves. So we could then pull all of the submittals that have been approved for a particular project. And then we have an immediate reference of all the documentation for that particular project by subcontractor, by documentation type, etc, etc, etc. So very, very helpful. Will massively streamline things, especially when we're trying to go through that submittal process, and also to be able to just refer back to data points at any given time as well for that particular subcontractor or by that subcontractor, or by that project as well. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to go ahead, press the plus button in the top left hand corner. We're going to go ahead and create a new board. Now this is going to be called our submittals. And then the privacy option is entirely up to you. Privacy main, private only you and select individuals. Main, anyone has access to this. And in this board, we are managing submittals. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and then press create board. Now what I'm also going to do, just to keep things tidy, you probably noticed on the left hand side we have some folders here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder and call this submittals, and then I'm going to go ahead and reposition this into my folder if it wants to let me, which it doesn't seem to want to do. There we go. Awesome. So now we have our submittals board. Obviously, this is extremely rudimentary. There are a series of stages that we need to set up. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to set up the different stages of the process. So first and foremost, we would have draft submittals. So these are submittals that have been obviously submitted to you by your subcontractors, and they're all going to come into this draft area here automatically. And then what we want to look at is them being under review. So the next stage of the process is submittals that are under review. So under review submittals, and then we would be looking at either returned or approved. So we would go returned as the next stage of the process, returned submittals, submittals. So these might be where you've sent feedback to them, and you've essentially returned them, and then obviously you're just waiting for them to come back to you with some changes or amendments. We then have the different stage, which would be approved. So we would have approved submittals. And then finally, we would have rejected submittals. Now, whether you choose to manage rejected submittals, because at the end of the day, all submittals are going to have to be approved at some stage. So there are just going to be amendments, I'm guessing. I mean, you can keep this if you want. It's kind of up to you. So draft to under review, returned and awaiting. You could change that slightly to revise and resubmit or something like that. So you could say returned, or I'd returned, or let's just revise and resubmit submittal. So it goes from draft, under review, we review it, we either approve it, or we tell them to revise it and resubmit, or we just blanket reject it. Now, rejecting a submittal is unlikely. 9 times out of 10, you're just going to ask them to revise and resubmit. But I think it's worth capturing that data point nonetheless. So these are the different stages of our process, and we've mapped that with the groupings here. What we'll next need to do is just make sure that our status column matches these different stages as well. So the graph, the gray is going to be draft. Then we go under review, and then we go revise and resubmit. And then we can use the green for approved, and then the red up the top here for rejected. Cool. So we've got draft, under review, approved, and then revise and resubmit. I will change these colors here as well, so make sure the purple matches. Draft, this one needs to be in the orange, and then that can just sit below. Cool. Awesome. So draft, under review, revise and resubmit, approved, and or rejected. So now we have the different stages of our process for our submittals. Now this files column, we're going to leave. We're just going to do the basic framework to start with. So we want to use this date created column, which is just the date column that's added when you create a new board inside of Monday. The purpose of this is going to be to track when this draft was submitted by the subcontractor or whoever submitted it. So I would change the name to date created and then just restrict the column editing. I would then add another date column, and this would be like, we could call this date closed. So this accounts for when the status of the submittal is either equal to approved or rejected, and then we'll have a when status changes to approved or rejected, then set date closed to today. And then again, what I would do is just not restrict the column view. I would remove that restriction. I would restrict the column editing. The reason being is we don't really want people to tamper with this. We also want to be able to see the amount of time it takes for a submittal to be approved or rejected. And also we can then track that as data against, let's say, project or project manager or subcontractor. We can look at various different data points like that. I would then add just a formula column to work out the difference between date created and date closed. Laws. There we go, and just hit enter. So this will work out the number of days difference between date created and date closed. I would call this formula column TTC. I would then hide the column summary, and then I would restrict the column editing. Awesome. So this is the 16th of October. If I change that to the 29th, you can see it's taken 13 days for that to be sorted. So now we have what I would describe as the absolute basic framework for our submittals board. What we need to then look at is just automating this. So when status changes to the various groups, it moves to the group, date created, automatically populating, etc., etc. So automate, top right hand corner, go to manage and then create automation. The first thing that we want to do is when item is created, set date, and this is obviously going to be our date created to today. Fantastic. So now we need to just go through when status. So when status changes to draft, move item to group, draft. Just the boring setup that we have to do. So then when status changes to under review, move item to group, under review, and so on and so forth. So fortunately we only ever have to do this once, but nonetheless it is quite painful. So when status changes to revise and resubmit, move item to group, revise and resubmit, and then we go when status changes to approved, move item to group, approved, and also set date, and this is going to be the date in which it was date closed to today. Okay, so that's the day in which it was approved. Okay, and then we want to go again, very similar setup. When status changes to rejected, move item to group, rejected, and also set the date, and then of course in this case the date closed again to today. So either way it swings, we know that it's been closed off and we can track the amount of time that it takes. So now we have our basic framework set up. We want to be looking at all of the different data points that we're going to want to capture here. So the first thing that we're actually going to want to do is add a text column. Okay, now this text column is going to be the project reference number. So project ref dot. So in order for anyone to ever create anything in any of our boards inside of this system, you must add a project reference number. So I'd set this column as required. So if I wanted to add a new draft submittal, I must add a project reference number. Now on our projects board, if I just head to our projects board, you will see there is a project reference number for every single project we have. It doesn't need to be complicated. It can literally just be 5 digits. I mean, that's super simple, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but you get the idea, right? So if I'm creating a new submittal, I know what project this is associated with. The reason we do this is because then we can use a connect boards column and connect our submittals to our projects. So we press connect board, select board, projects is the board that we want to connect to, and press create a two-way connection. And then we can automatically associate the submittal with the project, which I'm going to show you in a moment. So now what we will do is we're going to create a new automation. So we're going to go automate and go create. And we're just going to search when item created and, item created and this column. So what we're looking for is when an item is created in this board, connect this the item where this column matches this column in another board by this logic. We're essentially telling Monday.com that if a submittal is created where the project reference number matches the project reference number of a project on the projects board, then we want them to automatically connect. This creates a relationship between projects and submittals, and then it's really easy for us to track all of the submittals associated with the project, the different stages of all of the submittals. We can then filter by project for those submittals. We can see the stages, we can see everything. So we want to go ahead and firstly select the board. In this case, we are connecting to the projects board. Okay, so it's projects, the one that you've got created. The project reference number is this column, and then obviously the project reference number on the submittals board. And then we're connecting via the connection column that we've just created. And all we need to do is press create automation. So now if I go ahead and create an example submittal, and I'll enter in the project reference number 54321 and then just press create submittal, that automation is going to automatically run to connect the project, as you can see here, to this submittal, because the project reference number matches on the projects board. So it's really, really helpful. Now this then allows us to mirror over data from the projects board onto our submittals board. For instance, we can connect our mirror column to our connect boards column and then mirror over the project manager for this particular project. So now when a new submittal is created for that particular project, it automatically assigns the project manager of that project to review the submittal, or however you want it to work. It's entirely up to you. Okay, but now we have a connection. If we also then go to our projects board, you will see that the submittals, because we press create two-way connection, we can see the submittals associated with this particular project. That then allows us to add a mirror column, and then we can mirror over all of the data from our submittals that's associated with this project. So I can then mirror over the submittal status of all of the submittals associated with this project. So I can go submittal status. Awesome. So now I could just reposition this here. So you'll notice we have a daily log status, RFI status, change order status. We've also got milestone status, all in association with this particular project. I can see exactly what is going on at a click of a button, which is exactly what we want to happen, right? So now I can see we've got one submittal associated with this project, and currently it is in draft. Okay. So now we need to look at all of the data points that we want to be able to track, or that we need to collect from a subcontractor when they're submitting a submittal. So I mean, this is going to be nuanced dependent on your business and obviously what you want to track. But first and foremost, we'll have, let's say, a long text column, and this is going to be spec section. So they can write in the spec, or at least some data about this particular submission here. We then have a submittal title. So again, I would maybe have like a text column or a long text column, and then this could be the submittal title. Either that, or you could just have this as the title here. There's pros and cons to that, because what I might look to do is have, let's say we could have a naming convention of submittal name dash project name as an example. So we would have, let's just put in submittal name, keep it simple here, submittal name. So we've got spec section, submittal name. And then what we also want to look at is the subcontractor that submitted this particular submittal. You'll also notice on the left hand side that we actually have a subcontractors board. Now we've already got subcontractors connected to RFI. So if someone submits an RFI, we'll be able to track the subcontractor associated with this particular RFI. So we can see exactly who has submitted the RFI. Now I want to apply exactly the same logic to our submittals board as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a connect boards column, and we're going to connect our submittals to our subcontractors board. Okay. And then we're going to again make sure we press create a two-way connection. So now I can filter very, very easily the subcontractors that have submitted all of our different submittals. Now what we're going to need in order to make this possible is we're going to need to have a text column, which is going to be submit a name, so name, and also more importantly we're going to need to collect their email address. Okay, so and this will only work, by the way, if they are using their work email. So what we're going to do, and I'm showing you how this is going to work in a moment. So we've got their submit a name, submit an email address. Now on the subcontractors board, what I would do, and now we've got our submittals associated with this particular subcontractor, is I would create a new column. We'll create a text column and we'll call this the domain. Okay. So what's going to happen is it's very similar to the project reference number. The domain is going to be the domain of their website or their email address. So if it's, in my instance, it's nick@crmcrew.com. That's our email address, right? What we want to be able to do is when an email is submitted, we want to be able to extract the domain from the email. That's going to act as our unique reference number, which will allow us to connect our submittals to our subcontractors. So we're going to create a text column, and this text column is going to have some fancy AI functionality that's built in within monday.com. So I'll call this domain, and then we want to press the 3-dotted button, go autofill this column, extract text, and then we want to extract the domain name from the email, submitter email, okay, and just press save and apply. So now, every time a new submission comes in, monday.com is going to automatically extract CRM Crew, the domain from the email address of the person that submitted it, which will then act as a means of connecting the submittals to the subcontractors. I admit this is relatively complex, but it's so worth it. So now we're going to go to automate, top right hand corner, and we want to have we could literally just duplicate this in all fairness. So when an item is created in this board, we want to connect to the subcontractors board, and then we're going to match the domain with the subcontractors, and then the domain is going to match the domain. So when an item is created in this board, connect to the subcontractors where, actually, I don't think it is going to be when an item is created. That's my bad, actually. That's not the automation that we want. Let me just check that. Actually, we just want to delete this. That's actually, I do apologize, and I don't know why it's not now letting me delete when an item is created. What we want to do is something very similar. So, but it's not actually when an item is created. When column changes, connect this. So when column changes, connect this item where this column matches another column in another board by this logic. So that's the one that we're looking to use. So when column changes, and in this case, it's going to be the domain, connect the subcontractor with the and then the other column is going to be the domain, and then this case it's going to be the domain, and then we're going to connect via the connection column we've created. So the reason we're doing this is because if you enter in an email address, it takes a couple of seconds for the AI to automatically extract the domain. So then the column will change as opposed to the item being created, which acts as our trigger. So we're saying when domain changes, connect the item where the domain matches domain and subcontractors by this logic, create automation. Fantastic. So now if I submit, and I'm just going to go ahead and do this, nick@crmcrew.com, hit enter, that's going to extract the domain automatically. That data change or column change is then going to trigger the subcontractor to automatically connect, because there's a match between the domain on here and the domain on the subcontractors board, which has worked perfectly. So now this would allow us to filter by our subcontractors, which is exactly what we want to be able to happen for our submittals. So now we just need to look at what other data points we need. So we've got I've kind of got a list here. We've got the subcontractor associated. We've got submitted by, so the name of the person as well, and their email address. We've got date received, so that's the date created. We've got, we could have the reviewer, so the person that's actually meant to review it, especially if it's external. So you could have a status column, and this could be the reviewer. I mean, if you wanted to get super fancy, you could then have another connection column to, let's say, a board with all of your architects and engineers, or you could just have a status column. So I'm going to call this architect number 1, if I could spell it correctly, architect number 2, and then we could go engineer number 1. You could also, if you wanted to, use a person column, but that would actually mean that we give them access to the system. So again, this is going to depend on how you want to operate. So if you are a commercial GC doing between $10 to $50 million a year in revenue, and you want a system like this, then book a call using the link in the description below, and we can have a chat about how we could customize this for your business and also set up all of these other aspects of the system as well. Anyway, so we then got reviewer. I would also have a date column, and this would be the date in which we sent to reviewer. So date, sent to reviewer. And then probably just hide the column summary on here. What else we got? Status. We've got a status. We could then also have, so we've got date sent to reviewer, and then we could have another date column, and that's the date in which it was returned. In all fairness, that could act as date closed, or it might be worth tracking that anyway. That's kind of up to you. We have comments and notes. I think a long text column would be worth adding here. So any comments or notes, either from the, or we could have two actually. So 2 long text columns. It would be, we could have submitter comments / notes, and then we could have another status column. Oh, sorry, not a status column. What am I talking about? Another long text column, and this could be reviewer comments / note. So at least we can then track all of the information that we've received for this particular submittal. I think we could then, we've already got it. So we've got our files, we've got attachments / documents. I would not recommend uploading files directly to this system. Okay. But what you can do is you can link to your Google Drive. So you can link to the folder. But what might end up happening is the subcontractor might submit it directly to monday.com, or they might provide a link. I would then maybe download those files, upload them to Google Drive or OneDrive or SharePoint or however you do it, Box or whatever it is, and then just use that as the link. So you could have a link as well, because what you're probably going to want to have is a project folder, and then that's going to, within the project folder, there'll be more folders which will then contain documents relating to different areas of the system or the project entirely. So we might just then have a link column, and then this would be folder link as an example. So then you could link the folder that's associated. I'm trying to think what else we would probably want. The only other thing that we might want to look at is, let's say, a priority. And this is kind of, I'm keeping this super basic, okay, just to give you an idea as to what's possible. So now we have a priority as well. So high, critical, high, medium, low for this particular submittal. So if I just go ahead and delete all of these, just keep it super clean, and then just press delete again. So now we have our example submittal. The project manager's pulled over via the project reference number for that particular project. We've got the reviewer, we've got the priority of this particular submittal, date sent to reviewer, attachment / documents, the folder link, the submittal name, spec section, submitter comment / notes, reviewer comment / notes, and then we got the submitter name, submitter email, which would then associate with the subcontractor via the domain column, which we set up with those automations. So there obviously is a lot here. The point of all of this is to keep a record of all of the submissions that we've had for all of our projects by all of our subcontractors. So let me show you how this works, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make the submitter email a required column, okay? So we would go new submittal, and this is just going to be example submittal number 2. It's going to ask me for 2 things. First and foremost, the project reference number and also my email address. The purpose of that being that we can then extract the domain. We want that every time. So I'm then going to go ahead and press create submittal. So now we have example submittal number 2. That is going to take the project reference number, automatically connect to the project, and also extract the domain and automatically associate with the subcontractor as well, automatically. Fantastic. It's exactly what we wanted to happen. Now we can go ahead and filter. We can say, show me where the project is equal to project number 1. So it's going to show me all of my submittals for project number 1. Alternatively, I could say, show me where the subcontractor is equal to CRM Crew Limited, and it's going to show me all of my submittals for CRM Crew Limited. Now, if we then wanted to get really fancy, we could do and, so show me where subcontractor is CRM Crew Limited, and the project is equal to project number 1. So now it's going to show me all of my submittals for project number 1. Again, the more data points that you look to track on here, the better that you're going to be able to use your submittals board. But again, this is extremely rudimentary. I just want to give you an example as to what's possible. So now I can change the status of this to approved. So that's all good to go. We're happy with that. We're happy with the documentation. Documentation makes sense. We know what you're putting together and building. So that's been approved. We've then got obviously this one. This is now under review. So the project manager has been assigned when that submittal came in, and we're able to track all of this data with ease. Now, in the next video, I'm going to be putting together the forms to capture all of our submittals So you can share one form and all of the submittals come in via that particular form. And then we're going to expand on reporting and then get this working, get this live. But we have kept this relatively simple. The point being, I just want to give you an idea as to what is possible. And then I would like, well, hopefully we would work with you if you wanted to work with us. And we would design this to be specific for your business and what you want to track, what you want to be able to see, and also what we would recommend as well. But start simple and then we can expand on the data points. The more data points we collect as well, the more that we can report on information, which is always what we want to be able to do. So for change orders and billing and milestones and projects and daily logs and RFIs, we have dashboards for each of these as well, which is really, really, really important. So I can go to my daily logs dashboard and I can see all of the data associated with my daily logs, exactly what's going on across all of my daily logs for all of my projects, by my project managers, literally everything. So we create the same thing. So if you are a commercial GC doing between $10 to $15 million a year in revenue, and you would like systems just like this to improve the profitability, improve the cash flow, improve the operational efficiency of your business, all you need to do is click the link in the description just below this video. There, it will take you to a website, watch the video, and then book a call with me. We can have a chat about how we can build all of this for your business. Believe me, this is a game changer. I'm sure you can probably see how much we've built with all of this. It can massively, massively help your business scale, improve the profitability, improve your cash flow, and just make managing projects somewhat less stressful. Anyway, thank you ever so much for watching. Hopefully this video has been helpful. I will see you in the next one. Thank you and goodbye.